How can someone be saved after the rapture occurs? Will a temple be built then to give sacrifices, or will there be a time of transition of some kind? So after the rapture occurs, and let's go back to the chart. So after the rapture occurs, the prophetic clock will resume. And the significance of that is that the relevant doctrine will become the exact same doctrine prior to the revelation of the mystery, prior to the dispensation of grace. So get Matthew 24:14. Matthew chapter 24:14. So when someone says, how can someone be saved after the rapture occurs? The relevant thing to understand is which gospel is then being taught. So Matthew chapter 24:14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So after the rapture occurs, anyone that is still on earth at that point, what they need to do is they need to believe the gospel of the kingdom. The follow-up question that was asked, will a temple be built then to give sacrifices, or will there be a time of transition of some kind? So get with me, Revelation 11, verse 1. Revelation chapter 11, verse 1. Now, if you think about the conditions on earth when the dispensation of grace started, the temple was standing at that point in time. And what you're going to see is that the temple will be rebuilt. So Revelation chapter 11, verse 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar and them that worship therein. Well, in Revelation 11, there's an angel that's measuring the temple of God, which obviously means it has to have been rebuilt if the angel is measuring it. Look at me at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 4. 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 4. Let's start in verse 3. 2 Thessalonians 2:3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. This is the beast, this is the wicked one. Notice verse 4. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. What 2 Thessalonians 2:4 demonstrates is that during the first half of the 70th week, the temple has to be in existence. And when it is in existence, Israel will be offering sacrifices in the temple. But in the middle of the 70th week, the man of sin, the son of perdition, he goes into the temple and he causes them to cease because he basically says that he is the Christ and that he has arrived. He exalts himself above all that is called God. So is the temple then standing so that sacrifices can be offered? Yes, it is during the first half of the 70th week, but we know that it's made desolate in the middle of the 70th week. Now, the final question that was asked here is, will there be a time of transition of some kind? What people often do is they look at the beginning of the dispensation of grace. And you can tell, for example, in Acts 15, when Peter and the 12 give the right hand of fellowship to Paul, Peter and the 12 go to the circumcision, Paul goes to the uncircumcision. Both of those ministries are in effect at the same point in time. So there is a period of overlap where both ministries are operating. people sometimes think, well, okay, then there must be something similar at the end of the dispensation of grace. There has to be an overlap. I don't think that logic is correct. Get 1 Corinthians 15:51. The book of Acts is about the fall and diminishing of Israel. If you read in Romans 11, it'll talk about the fall and diminishing of Israel. When you think of diminishing, that tells you it doesn't happen in an instant, right? Something diminishes over time. It's a more gradual thing. It's not instantaneous. However, the end of the dispensation of grace is instantaneous. How do I know that? 1 Corinthians 15:51. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. And notice what it says. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. How long does the end of the dispensation of grace last? It's the twinkling of an eye. It's a moment. It doesn't happen, and then it happens. That's it. We're gone. So I don't believe there's any overlap at the end of the dispensation of grace. I don't think there's a transition. I think what happens is the dispensation of grace ends in an instant when God determines, based upon Romans 11, that the fullness of Gentiles be come in. At that point, the dispensation of grace ends. All the living members of the body of Christ receive their new bodies in an instant, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye.